guess, can you hear with the mask on, or?
Yeah, that's fine. Whichever you're comfortable with.
Stay further back. But yeah, this is our lab at Lassen Canyon Nursery. We've been in the business for 50 years. We grow millions of plants each year. We've got about 1,200 acres of strawberries. So, and locations in other countries as well. We have locations in Mexico and China. So we do a lot of strawberries. But this is where everything starts in the lab here. And I guess, do you want me to sort of explain?
Yeah, explain the process. Yes, please.
Okay. So the way we get our first plants is we get what we call our mothers or nucleus stock. Usually we receive those from Foundation Plant Services at UC Davis. They give us meristem or tissue culture plants to begin with that have already been tested for viruses and they're all clean. So usually what we do is we get one of those from FPS and we grow it out, naturally propagated. We just put it in some potting soil, and that's year one. So that takes a whole year to grow it out. Then what we do is we harvest the daughters of that plant, and we grow those out into, we basically hang them up and then just let the runners go. And I can actually show you some pictures of that.
Okay.
That'll help explain things.
I'll follow you over this way.
When we go outside, I can show you them, what they actually look like. But let's see. Yeah, here's a good example of what that looks like. Yeah, I'm not sure if you can
There's the
focus on it, but
Let's see. Yeah, I think it's got a good picture there. Okay. So that's the hanging plants.
yeah.
So that's year two.
Yeah, year two.
Okay.
I grow those out, and each of those plantlets on the runners, that's what I use to take my tissue culture cuttings from.
Oh, cool.
So that's where the meristem plants come from. And I'll show you what those look like.
Okay.
I can bring some out for you.
Okay. So this is the lab where the tissue culture happens, and for Lassen Canyon Nursery. And as you can see, they have labels and things set up for that, and it's fairly clean so that they have, a good work area. There's a sink over in this area so they can wash up their materials and things like that. Over here is a looks like they have a way of, this is where they're sanitizing everything. So here's the little baby
I'll show
plants.
you these first.
Okay.
So these are some that I did just a couple of days ago.
Maybe I can get around this other side so we can kind of get you in the picture as well as the plants. How's that?
Okay,
Right
yeah.
there.
As you can see, each cutting that I take from the plants is about 1 millimeter large.
Wow, you can barely see them in there.
Yeah.
They're teeny tiny.
Mm-hmm.
So they're just that little speck in the middle there. Okay.
And the whole purpose behind doing these meristem plants is for disease prevention. Because this whole process, what we do is we heat treat the plants for a few weeks before I take the cuttings. And what that is we just leave them in a room that's 97 degrees for a couple weeks. And a lot of times they don't make it, but when they do, basically what that does is it kind of shuts down the plant's system and prevents the virus from traveling throughout it. So we take those meristem cuttings out and put them in here and grow them out so they can grow up in a virus-free environment.
Very cool.
And so this is what they look like when I just did them, and this
Okay.
is what they will look like after 90 days inside these tubes.
Well, so 3 months,
Mhm.
those little tiny specks grow into these little plants. Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah. And it's not all of them survive. It's kind of a tough process, and of course, when you take the cuttings, you can't see exactly
Right.
how they might turn out. So I can show you a few. A lot of times we get contamination in there.
Oh, yeah, this is one's got some.
Yeah, I do all
Fungal.
these under a laminar flow hood with
Mhm.
gloves, and I use alcohol to sterilize everything, but you know, sometimes
Everything.
this stuff
Yeah.
happens. So. It's not perfect. Usually I lose about half of them in between this
Every stage.
meristemming stage and then when I get to the final stage. But yeah, basically these are about ready to go. So they've been in the tubes for 3 months, and what we do with these is we take them out of the tubes here, and I can show you in the next room what
Okay.
we do with them. These were all done just yesterday.
Oh, so this
So-
is the newly planted plant that came from the test tube, and now it's in this little pot.
Yep, we just
With
put
a
them
little-
in regular potting soil.
Okay.
And the reason for these plastic hoods on top is just to keep the moisture in,
Right.
because they're very, very sensitive at this stage. And usually the plastic hood stays on for about 2 weeks.
Oh, okay. So,
Yeah, and then once that
A little
comes off,
humid.
they're pretty much good to go.
Yeah.
Just normal little plants. If you want a close up, you can come look at this
oh,
one.
that'd be
here.
great. So
It's a
here's the
nice
little
big
plant
one.
that just popped out of the test tube yesterday, and it's growing in soil now.
Yeah, we don't really do anything special to them, just regular potting soil, a little bit of slow release fertilizer. We usually do pretty well with that.
And then they're under grow lights for,
Mhm.
how long will they stay in here?
In here, until they look pretty stable, and then usually I just use them to our other room, or move them to our other room, which looks pretty much like this. And
Okay.
I store them in here for several months until we plant this greenhouse in May.
Okay, so they could stay in here
So-
for several months then?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
So the
okay.
time period for that is, like, I start meristemming in late August or so, and I stop in early January. And then after that, it's just transplanting and storing them in here, and then finally they go outside in May.
Oh, okay. Wow.
So that whole thing that I've just described is year 2.
Okay.
The process.
That's here too? Okay. All right. Then what happened? So we're back out here with the little baby plants.
Let's see. Well, I guess we'll move on to year 3 and go
Okay.
out and look at this greenhouse.
All right. I'll let you lead the way.
Mhm.
And this is your autoclave here. This is the where you
Yes.
sterilize things. So
So,
This is-
oh yeah, we can stop and talk about
Okay.
the media for a bit. But that sort of jelly-like substance inside the tubes, it's very, very basic tissue culture media. It's just sugar, water, vitamins, and agar.
Hmm.
And that's pretty much it. We autoclave it and then take it into
so this is what the
the tissue
autoclave
culture
looks
room.
like.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yep.
All right.
Yeah, here's our greenhouses out here. We have 6 of them. And we can go inside and take a closer look.
Okay.
Yeah, I assume you haven't been wandering through any other strawberry fields or anything.
I have not. I've only been in our greenhouse with poinsettias today, but I don't think we have any pests that might get off on me just because we were pretty careful.
And the reason we have these in screen houses rather than greenhouses is to let
there-
the
there's the
ambient
screening.
chill in. Because chill is extremely important to strawberries. We need them to go dormant before harvest in order for them to store up enough energy to, get planted in the next season. So, yeah, this is year 3. And what I do is I take just one of those plants, of those little tissue culture plants, and plant one in each bin. And then over the course of the season,
So these are the whole bins here. So one plant per big bin here. Okay.
and over the course of the season, we just let them run until it fills the entire bin. Usually, each variety, we can get about 100 per bin. And we have several different varieties. And I think we have 73
Oh,
different
wow.
ones this year. So yeah, each house has a few different varieties. And each variety, it depends on, we sell them to different places. Each variety grows better in different climates and stuff, so that's why we have so many.
So this is the greenhouse filled with different varieties of strawberry plants, all growing in these white bins. All right, cool. If I can show, I was going to try and show like how many plants were in one, because it's hard to,
Yeah,
I think it's
can
kind of hard to
sorta,
visualize when they're looking at.
You want to like sort of dig through.
Yeah, you can see. I mean, it's what, 100 or more plants in there, huh?
And
Wow.
we also have some double bins, which are basically just 2 of these pushed together.
Okay.
Some of our varieties are really, really prolific, and we need to grow a lot of them. And they can actually, one plant will fill up both bins. So,
Oh, wow.
yeah,
So that's amazing.
yeah. These are some of our smaller stuff that only do about 100.
Okay. That's cool.
Mhm.
Okay, where to next?
Well, from here, from year
Okay.
3.
Okay,
they
this was
go-
year 3. Okay.
Yeah, they go out to our foundation field, our low elevation fields in Manteca. So that's in year 4. And that's when we take our plants from the screen house and we grow them in blocks of 100. So we'll take 100 plants, plant them outside in the field, and that 100 will usually turn into about 15 to 20,000. And those several thousand is what we use to take to our high elevation fields, which would be year 5. And then from there, that's when we sell them to growers.
Okay.
So from that first meristem plant that we start with to what we sell to the growers is about 6 years.
Wow.
So that's how long this process takes. And each year, you know, we propagate them and get a little bit more plants, more and more and more, until we end up with, you know, the millions that we harvest at the end of the season.
Wow.
So
And you said, if I'm remembering correctly, it's several million plants that you harvest every year.
Mhm.
That's right.
yeah. And the reason we have low elevation fields down in the south and high elevation fields in the north is because of the sort of chilling requirements of strawberries. In the north, they get a lot of chill on them, and it basically kind of, what we do is we kind of trick them. So we harvest them, and then a few days we get them down here to be trimmed and packed up, and then a few days later they're down in the south being planted, and the strawberries just like, oh, that was a quick
It's
winter,
spring.
and they just, yeah, they take right off.
Very cool.
And our low elevation plants, they get a little less chill, and those we usually store in the cooler for a bit, and we ship those elsewhere to
Okay.
places that don't kind of align with the California growing season, like Canada and
Okay.
places like that.
Very cool.
Yeah, so it all works out. And another big thing is about strawberries is it's very heavily regulated. You know, we get tested at each stage. So that one
that's right.
meristem plant that we got from FPS, that's been virus tested by them. So that is clean. We get, every year we do PCR and DNA markers. That's also very important because, you know, obviously this right here is Fronteris. We sold it to someone, but it wasn't Fronteris, you know.
Right.
That would be a huge mix-up. And we could get sued for that, so. It's
So
very
they're
important to-
DNA tested to make sure they're the variety
Yeah,
you think they are.
yeah. But yeah, they get tested at every stage. So here in the screen house, we do the CDFA does a virus index testing on each plant, each bin in the screen house. And if they don't pass index, we just have to throw the whole thing away.
Wow.
Yeah, because we definitely don't want that to spread anywhere else, and because it'll get worse if you plant some
Right.
infected plants out in the field. The problem just gets bigger and bigger. But yeah, we do indexing here and also in our foundation stage.
Okay. So year 4.
Yeah, that
4,
would be
yeah.
year 4. And then from then on out, we don't usually test all the plants like we do here. Usually it's more visual inspections.
Right. Okay. What else do we need to talk about here? Can you show us the do you have
yeah.
hanging plants? Can we see that stage? That would
Yes.
be year 2, right? So each of these screen houses also have a separate little entry chamber, which I'm standing in right now, and it has 2 doors, and that's to keep any insects from flying in as people are entering and exiting the house. So as you can see, there's this little chamber on the outside, so each has control of not allowing anything in the house. We're moving back towards the lab room, and there's a greenhouse that's attached. This is actually a greenhouse. It's not a screen house. It has Lassen covering over it. Do I follow you, or are you just gonna have?
Yeah, you
Okay.
can come inside.
We're usually not allowed to enter, so that's why. They limit visitors in and out so that they can limit pests and diseases coming in. So this is, you don't, on video, you don't feel how hot this room is, but it's very warm.
This is our heat chamber. As you can see, it's
Shut the
at 96 right now.
Show them the 90. Whoa, it won't show it up, will it? Will it show? Oh, they're 96 degrees there.
You can see the plants
Let
are
me see if I can
pretty
get back.
rough shape. They're not looking great. They don't like this heat.
So I'm just gonna get back far enough that we can, oh, see, I don't wanna touch the plants here. When I get back far enough that we can see, oh, here we go. You can see them hanging.
It's
And then
almost
each
been
one,
like
each
putting
into
them
little
through
plants.
chemotherapy almost, you know? It's pretty hard on them. But we use this heat to sort of limit the virus.
So this shuts down their vascular system so that you can then isolate the meristem. And so what part do you pick when you're actually going to meristem something?
So
What part
as you
is
can
it that
see,
you're
the
picking?
way strawberries grow is they produce these sort of horizontal stems called runners, and at the end of each stem is a little plantlet. And this is how strawberries can asexually propagate themselves, is by producing these little clones. And this is what I take my cuttings from. So I just cut off each one of these and sort of cut into it at the base. And right in the middle there somewhere is where that apical meristem is. And that's what I take for each of my cuttings.
Cool.
And here's just the rest of the hanging plants.
Oh my gosh, so there's more. There's more here.
It's not
It's
hot
a
in
little
this room.
little cooler in this room. So these aren't being heat treated at the moment.
No.
But as you can see, these plants are
Yeah.
hanging in here.
And there's a little screen at the bottom, so they are starting to go
So they
dormant
are getting a little
bit.
bit moist, cooler here. Huh. Very cool. Okay.
Basically, what I do is I just take a few plants at a time and put them in the heat chamber.
Oh, in the heat chamber. Okay. Because is it just you that is the
Yeah.
propagator?
Just me. I probably do, at the end of the year, a few thousand cuttings. So,
Wow.
yeah. Since,
Farm
the
your-
total number of clones we have in this greenhouse is 500.
Oh,
so,
wow.
yeah, each one of those is done by me, came from one of these
Wow.
plants.
So is that for each greenhouse or all greenhouses together?
In total, for all
Okay.
6, yeah.
So all 6 greenhouses get 500 cuttings. And those 500 then become 5 or 6 million at the end or more?
Yeah. Several years later. Yeah, that's pretty much the whole process here. Oh, I can also show you the steam sterilizer. we use
Oh yeah,
for
that's
our-
always interesting how they get the sand sterilized.
Yeah. Pretty much everything that goes on here is tested multiple times, sterilized. Yeah, we try and keep everything as clean as possible. So the CDFAs, they come through and they do a lot of inspection. Anything that doesn't pass has to be removed.
CDFA is the California Department of Food and Agriculture for
Yeah, sorry.
those that don't know.
And they actually do a leaf graft index. So, and it's a purely visual inspection. What they do is they take a plant from us and they graft some of the leaves onto a very indicator plant, which is a very virus sensitive plant. And then if the plant starts showing symptoms, and
Oh, they know that it might.
infected.
Oh, interesting.
So that's how they test. And that's sort of the official government testing. But we also do some of our own testing with PCRs through a private lab, the
Okay.
California Seed and Plant Lab. we use to sterilize the sand that we use in the bins. And it's not pure sand, it's kind of a loamy sand. There's a little bit of soil in there. But basically we use a forklift to take a bin of sand, dump it in here, closes it up, steams it, and then drops it
You
out
can see the
bottom.
steam pipes that run through. There's a big boiler back here that heats up the water.
Yeah.
And then you put a bin below and it drops
Drops
it
out
into
the
that.
bottom, put it back in the house.
Very cool. And this, I think, was built in-house, if Pete told me correctly.
Yeah.
Their shop built it, so
Yeah.
pretty amazing.
We use a lot of custom
yeah,
equipment here.
yeah, specialized equipment.
Yeah, we used to have to fumigate all the soil we
Right.
used several years ago, but this is much more environmentally friendly and it works just as well. So,
Very cool.
so yeah, that's pretty much
Everything
everything at the screenhouses.
Okay.
Yeah. If you
I'm
have
gonna
any
stop the